SEC championship game in Atlanta this past weekend, or yesterday, if you're watching the show live right now. Joe, I got to admit something. Okay, in games that are as close as what Georgia and Alabama just went through, turnovers, field position, okay, and the better quarterback normally win the game. When everything is equal, which yesterday felt like a lot of things were equal between both teams. Kirby versus Nick. And I know that you could say Nick is more on the pedestal than Kirby. Kirby did just win back-to-back national titles. And by the way, he's out of the playoff. He's won, of the last 30 games he's played, he's won 29 of them. So I'm not going to say that Kirby is anywhere completely lower than Nick. They're right there with one another as of right now. But, Joe, when things are so close, usually whoever has the better quarterback play is going to win at the end. Jalen Milroe down the stretch, late third quarter going into the fourth, is what separated them. Joe, at the end, now you can go back and forth and we can talk about the game, how Georgia struck early. They scored the opening touchdown. Their first drive looked amazing. But then Alabama comes back, gets the field goal. But really both lines of scrimmage were getting after one another. You could say Alabama won the line of scrimmage. I wouldn't disagree with you saying that Alabama on both sides.
I thought it was pretty even.
Well, the only thing about that, Joe, is Georgia could not run the football. We'll talk about this a little bit. They just could not run the football. But I will say, down the stretch, Jalen Milroe was the better quarterback in this game. Whether you want to look at the stats and just say, oh, well, he was 13 of 23. I don't care because, Joe, they were up 3, 20-17. And Alabama gets the ball back. Jalen Milroe said, you know what? Isaiah Bond is a mismatch against Georgia. He goes 4 for 4 for 57 yards. He hits Bond on a 21-yard drag route. Remember, he's under pressure. He hits the little shuffle pass. Then he hits Bond for 13 yards, then 11 yards, and then Williams gets the 1-yard score. Then he turns right around after Georgia would get a touchdown and answer them, runs for 30 yards, slides, ball game. You can say whatever you want to about Jalen Milroe, and I understand it. But the kid is getting better, and that is why they're winning close football games, is the play that he has had down the stretch.
Look, I will give credit, and I already said I give credit to Tommy Rees for the game that he called. The what he did with the scheme offensively, I think was nearly perfect. There were a lot of timely plays that set them up for success to put points on the board. I'll give Jalen Milroe credit for the way that he played a number of the drives that he strung together. He was, we got to be honest with ourselves, far more impactful as a runner than he was as a passer because he made a number of rough throws. He took a couple of bad, like they weren't just sacks. They were 10-plus yard sacks where he dropped back and got ripped down. Those are bad sacks. Didn't
against
play
a really good defense.
Yes, against a very good defense. But I think that he played a very impactful and important game. But look, we have to admit to ourselves here, and Alabama fans who already hate me aren't going to like to hear this. But if Georgia was not as banged up as they were coming into this game and dealt with the in-game injuries that they dealt with, I think that the outcome would have been different. I still believe what I said coming into this game, not knowing that Brock Bowers was still heavily dinged up or got re-injured in the time span that he came back. And same thing with Ladd McConkey. And the biggest issue was them losing Amarius Mims. As soon as he comes out of the football game, they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't protect nearly as well. He is integral for their success because of how good of an offensive lineman he is. He's going to be a first-round pick, and not having him really, really killed them. It really killed them. That was the most important loss. But the timing of their injuries, we talked about as they started to get healthy in the middle of the year, the timing of all of it, they were going to be healthy right at the perfect time for them to go on this surge. But we were wrong. They were dinged up. They were starting to get healthy, and they got re-injured. Them not being fully available and to play at full strength hurt them in this game. I give Alabama credit for winning the football game. They fought their asses off. They did everything that they needed to do. But we still have to admit here, if Brock Bowers was fully healthy, if Ladd McConkey was fully healthy, and if Amarius Mims was in this game, I think that the outcome would have been different. They would have won.
If my aunt had a penis, she'd be my uncle.
Look, I understand that, like, I'm throwing out a stupid hypothetical and that pisses fans off, and it pisses me off when people do that too. But we can't act like Alabama came into this game being vastly better than Georgia.
Okay, I'm not going to say that, but they won the football game.
They did, and that's why I'm giving them credit for winning the game.
Let me throw this. I don't want to say defend what you're saying, but let me defend it, or the way that I see it. Okay? Because I'm old enough to remember last night, Georgia scored 14 points in the fourth quarter and should have won the football game, but Georgia's defense can't make a stop. So I understand what you're saying in reference to them being banged up offensively. You're not wrong. But why can't you get onto the defense about not being able to stop a quarterback that no one really has a lot of faith in? Jalen Milroe's not the best quarterback that you saw all year, and he lit you up. Joe, again, it's 20-17. You literally just scored a tutty. They literally just scored a touchdown. And you're going to sit here and tell me, okay, that when you're kicking the ball off, you let Jalen Milroe go 4 for 4 for 57 yards and go down and score. You let them score in the most critical time of the game. Then you go down and score again, and you know that Jalen Milroe is going to run the football. I thought Gary Danielson called one of the better games that I've ever heard him call. He said, listen, Georgia kicks the ball off. Here comes Alabama. He goes, they're going to run Jalen Milroe on a QB power. And what did they do? QB power right up the middle. After 30 yards, he slides, ball game. You're going to have to also explain to me how the team that no one really thinks that can win, when it goes down the stretch, they get pieced apart. Are you going to say that Kirby got out-coached? Are you going to say that Tommy Rees out-coached? Okay,
I don't want to do that, though. I'm not going to go as far as to say that Kirby was out-coached. Yes, Tommy Rees called a really, really good football game.
They can't stop him in the fourth quarter to win.
They're down one of the most important players on their defense with Jamon Dumas-Johnson. That is very important for spying a quarterback and also playing the run game against said quarterback. He is one of the best linebackers, if not the best inside linebacker in the SEC.
Then I can turn it completely opposite. The number one corner for Alabama went down.
That was at the end of the game. And it
was late in the third quarter.
That's late in the game. Wait, but also we have to acknowledge here, like, Alabama doesn't have a deep secondary. They have a very, very deep.
The depth of a team is the point. Them being able to respond after an injury is the point. It's not Alabama's fault. And by the way, if you're going to say, oh, well, the receivers were hurt for Georgia, don't tell Alabama fans that. Jamison Williamson tore his ACL when they played Georgia. Remember, Georgia literally, people believe, won a national title against Alabama when Williamson went down. Revenge.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, it's a very good point. You do get revenge for a team you were once dealing with injuries and it hurt you, and now you get to come back. Look, I'm not discrediting the win. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm just trying to provide reasoning for what I said leading into the week. I'm trying to defend my point, and I think that my point was reasonable, and I think a lot of people would have freaking agreed with me.
No, you said they were going to get blown out. And what did your buddy Blake tell you?
You said it was going to be a three-point win.
I told you it was going to be a 3-point win either way. And you know,
fully healthy Georgia team, completely different outcome.
Again, if my aunt had a penis, she'd be my uncle. But the bottom line becomes Georgia. I understand what you're saying about injuries. Joe, the fumble on the double reverse is not an injury problem.
That's true. Well, actually, that's a really good point here.
It's not an injury problem.
Yeah. This is less of a debate point, but I do want to bring that up. Georgia in this game seemingly had just a general lack of execution. Like, there was the stupid shit that happened with the missed field goal because they had a false start and they had to move back. Something was off just in general with this.
To your point about that, that's what loses close games. That turnover and the false start that pushed you back from 45-yard field goal to a 50-yard field goal, that loses you close games like this, man.
Yeah.
That cannot happen. Now, let me say this, okay? I said earlier that I thought Jalen Milroe was the better quarterback. I still thought just in the game, he was the better quarterback. 13 of 23 with 2 touchdowns on what, Joe, both of us called the best secondary in the country. I mean, you got to give it to him. The wheel route, I know that you're going to say he's wide open. He is, but he makes the play. The throw that he makes to Jermaine Burton on that dig route, God bless it alive, is a hell of a – I know it's not an NFL throw because he's not an NFL dude. It's a hell of a freaking throw to get a score and take the lead.
Jalen Milroe did something that we haven't really seen at times this season, him do it consistently. For 4 quarters, he was decisive. He was reactive. He made very quick decisions. He didn't hesitate. There were so many times this year, and like it showed up against Auburn, the first half against Tennessee, at times against Texas A&M. There were so many games this year where he was so hesitant and over-calculating and just overthinking things. And I jokingly said he's got the Daniel Jones syndrome of just not thinking quick enough and making the wrong decision. Complete opposite of that. He was the most cerebral I have ever seen him play. And look, I will make this statement, and I know that it goes against every fiber of my being, but if he plays like that for the next 2 games, they do win a national championship. It all falls on his shoulder. Wait. It falls on his shoulders, in my opinion, if they win a national championship. Can he play a similar game that he did against Georgia over the next 2 games? If he falters and makes mistakes, that is going to hold them back. That's why before you jump in here, that is why I've had a lot of hesitation with Alabama, because I feel that there is a very, very thin line for what produces success for them. And that line is either Jalen Milore plays like crap or he plays amazingly. He plays perfectly. Once he makes mistakes, it takes him out of the game, which happened against Texas.
Let's talk a little bit of Georgia. Joe, their inability to run the football, in my opinion, lost in the football game. Not being able to get the edge. Look, Joe, we do power rankings every single week, and I've come in here and taken a lot of criticism behind Alabama. Joe, when I look at their front 7, I don't give 2 Rudy Poos when anybody tells me. I know that they're a top 3 front 7 in the country. They are that freaking good. The only team that exposed them, in my opinion, which could be what Washington can do, maybe not with the running because Penix doesn't run, would be them. They got exposed by LSU, and that's it. Nobody else truly exposed them. You can say, oh, well, Texas, but that game was completely different because they can't score. They're so much a different team than when they play Texas. They have to hit every deep shot to win in that game, where now you're seeing Jalen Milroe throw a wheel route wide ass open that goes for 6. I think Georgia's inability to run was the biggest thing that I thought. Did I think that they would have a tough time? Yes. Did I think that they would struggle that much? No, I do not. Now, one thing that I will say to start the second half, they got held to 3. They get the ball back. They're going in there. They get the long pass, that gets called by number 11. But here's the part I want to go with this. I do think that Georgia has a little bit of a gripe. The calls that the refs made in this game, I am not the guy that goes blame the ref. I am not blame the ref guy. Brother, that was one of the worst ref games I'd ever seen. And that goes to what everybody says about Bama. They always get the calls. Yeah, they got the calls against Georgia on Saturday, in my opinion.
I think in general, the whole weekend was pretty bad. It's weird. And you know what and this is kind of like a really in the weeds discussion. A lot of times, I don't know if the SEC did it, but they mentioned it on the Pac-12 broadcast, how they'll bring together an all-star team of officials to call the games.
They never called games together before.
Right. I don't like that decision. I think that's a really stupid approach to say, hey, let's bring together a bunch of guys. That's like bringing together a completely different offense to play a game. And that's hence the all-star game description. Why would you expect them to have chemistry and continuity? That group needs to have worked together. You can't just throw them in there.
Here's the problem I have with that. What relationship do you need with other referees to know if it's pass interference or not?
Well, it could lead to there's still communication and decision-making amongst the officials that influences the decision. They might not like each other and they might argue with one another. We don't really see all that stuff, and one might override the other.
But that still doesn't mean you don't throw the flag. Joe, you tweeted out during the game that number 8, I think it was, or number 9, maybe it was Amos for Alabama. Dude, they missed so many PI calls against Georgia. So many. Like, it was egregious. If there's one gripe I have about Georgia, I think that would be egregious. Let me ask you this.
Yep.
I know Georgia fans are going to want me to ask, so let's go ahead and ask. Should they have been in the playoff?
Not this year. We have never, ever seen 5 teams that won their conference that had undefeated seasons or 1 loss. If this was last year, absolutely. But we can't just straight up just put this team in because they're one of the best teams in the country. They absolutely are. I still believe that fully healthy, if you gave them that month to get healthy, they walk in and they win a national championship.
They beat all 4 of those teams is what you'd say.
Without a doubt. But the problem is we can't just throw out the criteria that we had for making that decision.
Yeah. Here's the only in this year's the reason why you do like the 12-team playoff. But I said it on the show that we recorded and put on our YouTube channel. Again, go listen to it. Joe, you would have potentially, if a team like Georgia loses, right, in the SEC championship game, you do know that when the 12-team playoffs enacted, Georgia versus Liberty, and my God, all I'm going to say is
actually, it would have been Florida State versus Liberty, but either way, that would have been hilarious. Yes.
You get what I'm saying. Okay, well, I think Liberty might not get a first down. Okay, but you get somebody's going to die in that game. Not literally, but somebody's going to get killed.
It's just, look, Oresco, I think is the AAC commissioner. He bitches and moans about everything. And it's kind of hilarious that everyone's upset about so many different things. And then it's just like, what is Mike Oresco talking about? But I actually kind of agree with him. SMU should be playing Oregon. They should be playing Oregon. Liberty does not.
I don't disagree with that. And look, I told you when Rhett Lashley was hired, all right, we came on this show and I said, listen, Rhett Lashley is the biggest no name. I say no name. But nobody was talking about Rhett Lashley, and I made us talk about 15 minutes worth of Rhett Lashley. And look, showed you text. Rhett is a guy that I think with them going into the ACC in that Dallas area and the money that they're spending, do not count out SMU moving forward. All right.
Make sure you check out Bet Online for all of your sports betting needs. For anything that I do betting related, I go on over to betonline.ag and I use promo code BELIEVE50. BetOnline has all of the latest updated odds for the NFL and college football seasons. Anything you need, whether it's futures, live in-game betting, no matter what, your football betting needs are met at BetOnline. And again, make sure you use that promo code BELIEVE50, BLEAV50 to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts.